Welcome to Technically Speaking, the show for the technically challenged. My name is Stephanie, and tonight we have a new topic in technology. Technology and spirituality, ways that people are reaching out to God and to each other, possibly through the internet. So I have a special guest on tonight. Monsignor Sean Ogle is the pastor at Our Lady of Mount Carmel Parish in Astoria, Queens. He also happens to be a speaker on issues in technology and evangelization for the Diocesan Communications Committee, and his parish has a YouTube channel, a Twitter account, and a very active Facebook page too. So I figured he's a good source for us today. Monsignor Ogle, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Stephanie.
My pleasure. Well, I follow you on Twitter.
One of the few.
And I thank you for following me on Twitter,
well,
too,
you know.
one of the few. We have to build each other up.
We got to do something about that.
But that YouTube channel is getting hits galore.
Yeah, well, we have a very active group of people in the parish who we've asked them to try to be present with their little mini cameras whenever we do things and make a record of it, because like most churches, we do stuff, we work hard at it, and then once it's done, it's over, and it kind of is forgotten in a certain way. And there should be a record of that, just as a way of communicating to others, but also to reaffirm ourselves that this is something that was valuable, this was a good experience, and we've kind of, in a certain sense, immortalized this. Not that anything really is immortal in my business, except heaven.
Right.
But it gives a sense of permanence and of worth, additional worth to what we do.
Well, I think from a marketing perspective, because I'm always thinking about marketing, by having that, let's say, the YouTube channel, and it shows what a fabulous time everybody had at the Our Lady of Guadalupe celebration.
Right.
And, well, from a marketing standpoint, people look at that and say, wow, I missed that.
Mm-hmm.
I should go next year.
Mm-hmm.
So we're hoping that they'll look at that, and then maybe next year you'll have more people at it.
Right.
So, before the event, telling them how great it's going to be, and then you put it on YouTube and we say, wow.
Right.
That was great.
We do get a fair number of hits, for some things more than others, We have a very big, we have 5 languages every Sunday in my parish, masses, and the Spanish-speaking community are mostly Mexican, and every year on Good Friday, they send up a TV crew from one of the Mexican television stations to film the march through the streets.
Well, you do a very graphic Good Friday.
Well, it is, yes. That's their culture, and it's totally run by the lay people. They do that whole thing.
Wow.
But the point being that that's something that's very, very prominent within Mexico itself. So there's a certain sense in which we're kind of imitating their example in a way.
And what's fabulous about putting it on YouTube is that people not just here in New York can see it, people back home can see what's going on here. Right.
Well, and also it empowers up my own people to become participants in making a record of our parish life.
Right.
Not only did they engage in the event, but they also have photographed it and filmed it, and now they've put it up there for others to see.
And there it is, getting hits and likes
and
comments
some,
and everything else on YouTube.
Right.
I've liked things.
Right. Thank you.
My pleasure. Now, when I first called and asked you to come on and talk about technology and spirituality, I have to ask you, when that first email or something came across and you read that, what did you think what was your first impression?
Frankenstein, actually. But
Frankenstein.
All that machinery and
technology
bringing
and
the dead back to life. And all
well,
that.
I guess so. I wasn't thinking Frankenstein.
No. But then, really and truly, I know what you were. I understand the connection. I mean, from the beginning of the Bible, you've got the very opening words, God said. So the idea of word is fundamental to revealed religion. And in every generation, whatever the current means of communication was, that's what has been used. So it was preaching, it was scrolls,
Right.
it was papyrus, it was folios, and it was printing presses, and it was stained glass windows.
Stained glass windows when they couldn't read.
Exactly.
And wasn't the printing press, I mean, at least in part developed because of printing out the Bible and other things like that?
The first thing that was printed on a printing press was the Bible by Gutenberg, who invented it, you know. And
so the church is cutting edge, is what you're telling me.
well, you know, it was always considered to be something that was important enough to want to use the latest means of communication to do it. So, in fact, you have the first Pope made a film in 1893. We have film of Pope Leo XIII.
From 1893?
1893. Some French filmmaker, when it was in its infancy, went to the Vatican, and he filmed Pope Leo giving a blessing to the world. And of course, Pope Pius XI opened Vatican Radio in the mid-1920s. And Marconi, who was the inventor of wireless radio, set up the radio station in the Vatican in the mid-1920s, which was long before many American places had radio stations yet, you know. So, I mean, there's always been the sense, certainly in the Catholic Church, and I think in other religions, of using the means at hand to get their message out.
Right. So my doing an episode on technology and spirituality, I'm actually behind the times here.
Oh, no, you're never behind the times. You're way ahead of the curve,
I don't
Stephanie.
think so.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
But, you know, you go through the App Store, and I mean, Pope Francis has a Twitter feed going
Yeah,
on. It
that's
just
true.
seems it's all out
3
there.
million hits?
3 million hits. That's a lot. That's 3 million more than I have on my Twitter
You
feed.
and me both, even together.
Even together. Well, we have something to aim for.
Right.
Well, with all this technology, is it helping or is it hurting? And I'm sure it's helping and it's hurting.
Mm-hmm.
People's, you know, spiritual search. Are there ways that it's good, or are there ways that this is a hindrance?
Well, I think we have to, we're amazed at what can be done on the internet. It's just a remarkable technology. And when you think that 12 or 15 years ago, people were not at all so conscious of this.
Right.
It's been a remarkable transformation, and that says something about the power of the medium. It is remarkable. It's great, and it's very helpful. I think it's very good for communicating information. But faith and religion are more than knowing about God.
True.
It means knowing God. So you're talking about a personal relationship. So insofar as you can know a person by reading information about them or getting their messages, that's good. That's a good way to learn to know a person. But that's not the same thing as really knowing them. And the same is true of faith and religion. So we can learn a lot about God, the church, sacraments. We can learn a lot of information about how things work. But that doesn't mean necessarily, automatically, our faith will grow any more than reading every page of the chapter in your history book is really going to sink in and make
True.
sense to you. You know, that takes a certain interiorization that has to take place.
But the exposure certainly is helping.
Yeah.
You know, you and I were even commenting that there are people that we communicate with on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
We may know long-flung cousins better than we know the people we're with because of the things they're posting.
Right. Well, that's the truth. I have cousins overseas who, you know, they're not much on letter writing, nor am I.
No.
But on Facebook, we kind of keep up with each other
Right.
much more than we ever used to. So in terms of information, yes.
Right, and exposure. I remember just now when our new Pope was elected, I sat there watching him come out on the balcony on my
Right.
iPad.
Right.
Certainly the popes before that, I had no idea. You know, they announced it, it was in the newspaper, but this time we all watched it
Right,
live on an iPhone or something.
Well, I think that's part of the ubiquity of the instrument is something that's kind of new. If you weren't at a television, well, let's even take it back a generation. During World War II, I am told, okay,
Before our time.
Yes, people would go to the movies, and at the end of the movies, they would show a newsreel
Okay.
showing you what just happened in Guadalcanal,
Right,
or
and that was the only way you'd know.
on the German front or something like that. And you had to really go to the movies to see it. Whereas in our time, the television screen made that a lot easier.
Sure.
But you had to be near a television screen.
The 6 o'clock news and wait until it came on.
And of course, you would see, even not so long ago, people would line up outside of television stores to watch maybe the last innings of the World Series if they weren't home, you know, stuff like that. Now, as you said, you've got this little pad, and you take it with you. You take the world with you in your pocket. So that makes it possible to reach people by means of the internet. And I understand that, I've read this many times, that one of the largest segments of traffic on the internet is with all the various religious websites that exist. That's a very high level of activity, apparently.
Isn't that wonderful?
Well, it's good news, you know.
Yeah. I mean, they could have been on, I don't know, drugs and porn.
Absolutely.
And maybe they are, but the newsreels want to tell us otherwise.
Right. That's right.
But it is a very different world we're living in now with all of this information that we can find out exactly what the Pope said this morning, you know, at Mass. It's all being transmitted.
Right.
Otherwise, you'd feel like you don't even know these people.
Yes. And of course, while the Pope has 3 million Twitter followers, the Dalai Lama has 8 million.
All right,
okay.
So we're gaining.
Every religion can make use of this, I think, and that's a good thing.
Right, absolutely. Well, anything that's getting people closer to God, whether it's the computer, the iPhone, you know, if it's building bridges, I think it's got to be a good thing.
Right. No, it's definitely an opportunity to allow people to not only learn things, but also if they have questions, to ask them.
Right.
So you not only have, you might say, self-presentation by various church groups, you also have forums for religious discussion where people can go and ask questions or make complaints or
make complaints.
Yeah, well, you know, it happens. Or explore their doubts about things, and there'll be somebody out there who may answer them, you know.
Right.
And then you have individuals who will create a blog on a certain religious topic, and there are blogs from every portion of the religious spectrum, from atheist to all the Christian groups to non-Christian groups, Jewish, Buddhist, right on to the pagans. I mean, there's something for everybody, and any individual puts himself out there and can participate in this. And a lot of them have quite a lot of followers. And a lot of them are very, very interesting, thought-provoking, and worth reading about.
And just the exposure that we're able to have all of that, you know, great writing and interaction, whereas, like you said before, you would be confined to just this little amount of information. Now the sky is the limit.
Yes, like many times when I'm preaching, I'm preparing to preach, I'll want to use a quotation. Now, I have, from years gone by, a file of papers with snippets and articles and things I've typed out and Xeroxed, and I have to say, it's not very well organized. But
to find something.
Right. But now when I need something, I really don't even have to go to my pile anymore. I can Google the phrase I want, and it'll come up pretty much exactly what I'm looking for, and then I can use that as my reference or my starting point or my conclusion or something like that. It's very helpful, I have to say.
Okay, so there's lots of information out there to be had.
Oh yeah.
Well, we're going to sort through some of it and look at some of these websites, apps, and all sorts of things that are out there with technology and spirituality.